Oh, baby. First and pod, Danny Parkins, Andrew Fillipponi, after an old-fashioned, passionate ass-kicking by the Chicago Bears, a juggernaut offensive performance. The franchise quarterback and a franchise receiver and a pass-rushing defense and a road win on a short week on Thursday Night Football. It had been a mere 346 days, Pony, since the Bears won a football game. They're back. How about that?
Well, you can put away the Caleb Williams jersey order for now.
Hey, they still get Carolina's pick.
So still take him and have two dueling quarterbacks, have them trade off.
I mean, listen. If the Bears get the number one pick, I don't think that there's anything Justin Fields realistically could do that would have them not taking Caleb Williams if they actually get the number one pick. So
you won't be taking he's back victory lap tomorrow. You won't be saying Justin.
I think both things can be true. Like
back to back.
I think both things can be true. Like I think that
if he's back, they're not going to finish with the number one. No, they'll have Carolina's pick.
That's what I'm saying. I'm saying if Justin Fields goes on a heater and they win 6 or 7 games, but Carolina gives them the number one pick, they're
trading Justin Fields.
They would still take Caleb Williams to reset the clock.
Yeah.
The guy who's got the upside, cheaper, all of that stuff, But if Fields goes on a heater and they win 6, 7, 8 games and Carolina has the second pick or the 5th pick or the 3rd pick, then all of a sudden they're in a great position. They're in the best case scenario.
So this is one of those very unique situations where, in all actuality, Justin Fields could end up playing his ass off over the last 3 quarters of the season. And as long as Carolina is the worst team in the NFL, his days in Chicago are numbered. That's interesting. I'm not sure everybody nationally understands that, like our entire audience. The Chicago market obviously probably does, but that is interesting. Like he could literally get them to like 9-8. And if the Panthers go 2-15, he's out in Chicago.
I think so.
Yeah. Wow.
Now listen, obviously that is like a huge hypothetical, right? Like he'd have to win a bunch of games. He'd have to play awesome doing it. The Panthers would have to be the worst team. Like it would be a debate, but Fields is at the precipice of when you would need to pick up the 5th-year option. So he's a year away from being expensive. And then you'd be talking about a contract extension next year, or not picking up the 5th-year option and going the Daniel Jones route, depending on how he goes. So that is obviously the thing that hangs over this whole season are the 2 first-round picks. And coming into today, they had a 57% chance of getting the number one pick in a draft with a transformational quarterback prospect. But pausing it just for a second.
Don't tell Peter King that. He went to Colorado and he thought Sanders was the better player. So in case Pete's out there listening,
I'll ask him about that.
Let's just make sure we get that out there. Yeah.
Yeah. But just like this, Peter King also said on my show that he thought if the Bears lost this game, they would break organizational precedent of never firing a coach in season. And it was in play that Matt Eberflus would be fired. Like there's been so much turmoil around. They were last year's Denver Broncos with Nathaniel Hackett at the beginning of the year and the Russell Wilson panic. Like they were a train wreck. They were a laughingstock. They were a punchline. They needed this to stabilize the program. And what's crazy, Pony, and I know, ifs and buts and close only counts and horseshoes and hand grenades and all that stuff, but like if they don't collapse against the Broncos last week, and they were up 21 points in the second half, if they don't collapse there and they won tonight's game, we'd be talking about 10 days of rest before a home game against a 1-3 Vikings team with a terrible defense for the Bears to get back to 500 in an NFC wildcard race that's wide open. So I'm not saying they're going to go on a run and make the playoffs, but their schedule is really weak, and they easily could have beaten Denver. So I do think that they are potentially turning a corner towards not good, but mediocre, middle of the pack, which is progress from last year.
Really, though, the most important thing by far is after the first 3 games, it looked like Justin Fields couldn't play quarterback in this league. Coming off the Packers, Bucks, and Chiefs games, and he's been sublime these last 2. Now, you could put the caveat out there, it was against the Broncos, who had given up 70 in Washington. But before that, it looked like he was going to be incapable of even putting up monster numbers against those teams. So that's to me, if the season had started, if their schedule had opened with Broncos in Washington, and these were the first 2 games of the season, and those were the only data points, you'd say it looks like we've got our guy in Justin Fields. He's on a 2-game run.
Yes, he's on a 2-game run, and he's doing it largely without running the football. So, listen, and he missed some throws. He still
made a lot of them too.
Right. He made a lot of them, and he missed some, and he's a big play guy, and he just looks comfortable. He's setting his back foot, and he's ripping the ball out, and he's throwing with timing. So there's still something there. It's salvageable.
Quick take on Washington. I know they've got a new owner. It's still one of the everybody ragged on the Tampa Bay Rays fans all week because of what happened with their wild card games in baseball. Still one of the worst home field advantages in all of football. Bears are 0-4, and the Bears fans there are going nuts after touchdowns, even with Snyder out. You've got Sam Howell, who is not going to be the answer there. Put up big numbers the week before. I get that. But the guy has terrible pocket awareness. He gives up a ton of sacks. And yeah, he's ballsy like Baker Mayfield. He'll run the ball and he'll lower his shoulder and take a hit, but he's going to get himself killed playing that way. He won't make it through the full season if he's going to invite contact when he runs the ball like that. Made some plays when they trailed late, just like he did against Denver when they came back and won in week 2. But to me, they're going to be back in the quarterback market for sure after the season, likely with a new coach.
I don't know what happened to Ron Rivera. What is the point of correctly going for 2 early
and then kicking that field goal? Yeah.
And then kicking that field goal to turn a 2-touchdown game into a 2-touchdown game late in the third quarter? What is the point? Not a rhetorical question.
There isn't one.
I'm like, it's just baffling, man. It's baffling. After that 2-point conversion thing last week that he doesn't go for, where he claims his team was tired, Eric Bieniemy's got to be going crazy over there.
Unless he's got a handshake deal that he's their next head coach there, which probably should happen at this point.
And one more thing on Washington. Isn't the best part of their offense clearly that McLaurin, Dotson, and Samuel is a really good wide receiver trio? What's
happened to Dotson? He's done nothing.
Well, he had the ankle injury. Then last week he had 9 targets, only 4 catches for 27 yards. And then, did nothing in this game. And he's been ineffective. But, they're always subbing him out. I feel like there's always just 2 of the 3 of them on the field. I don't know why they're not a top 5, top 10 in the league, 3 wide receiver set team. Like, those guys should be on the field together the whole game. That's clearly the best part of your team on offense. Use them. And I feel like for way too long stretches of time, that's not happening. But let's get to the games. Let's get to the slate. 49ers, Cowboys, the latest game of the year after Bills and Dolphins last week. What's your take on the game?
San Francisco has looked like a well-oiled machine. They've had 4 30-point games. Their defense has been dominant. They gave up a long drive against Arizona, and then they settled in after that on Sunday. Now, just like Dallas, though, look at who they've played in these first 4 games. They played the Steelers. They played the Giants. They played the Cardinals. They played a good Rams team. Not a great Rams team by any stretch. Decent team. So this is really for them a step up in weight class too. And hey, for everything that's been said about the Cowboys and losing the last 2 years in the playoffs to San Francisco and how, it means a lot more to them. Yeah, I also want to see Brock Purdy do it again against this defense because I thought he got very lucky in the playoff game last year. And I want to see, after Dallas righted itself following the Arizona debacle with what they did against Mac Jones, as I sit here right now, and I've starting to come around on Purdy, and I've given him more credit, best QBR in the league, etc. As of this very moment, I don't think he's going to have a big game on Sunday. I think Dallas's defense, when we turn that TV off Sunday night and do the podcast, I think the Dallas defense is going to be the story because I think they'll have gone into San Francisco and won the game.
So, I mean, I said last week that I think that the Niners clearly deserve to be the Super Bowl favorites over the Chiefs, and that the Eagles have been downgraded for me. And so the gap in the NFC now clearly exists between 1 and whoever you have as 2. And some people would have Dallas as 2. So I love this as an early measuring stick NFC game. But for Purdy, there are a lot of us that are doubters, us eye test guys, over the pure numbers. And then certainly the wins as a quarterback stat, like old school part of the media, which is mostly like the coaches who actually played the game, and the goal of the game is to win. And I don't care if I throw for 50 yards and 3 interceptions, but if I come out there with a win, that's good enough for me. Like, if Purdy handles the Cowboys pass rush, doesn't turn the ball over, and makes plays down the field, and is the reason they won, not because of the defense, not because of handoffs to McCaffrey and swing passes to McCaffrey, but if he is like a playmaker, difference maker, reason they won, that is going to be a data point that those of us that have just been screaming, this is ridiculous, 50 guys in the world could do this in that situation, it's going to be really tough for us to make that argument come Sunday night. So I think if you care about that sort of thing, the narrative of Brock Purdy, this is a huge game to swing those conversations.
You could say the same thing about Dak, even though he's won a lot of big regular season games before. He's going to try to exercise some demons here, even though it doesn't make up for what happened in the playoffs the last 2 years. It just strikes me as a game. If we look at the Cowboys since Dak took over in 2016, it just strikes me as the kind of game they win in October but lose in January. And just like I said last week going into Buffalo, Miami, I just felt like the game mattered more to Buffalo because all the talk was Miami. I can see Dallas looking at this game the same way. Oh, if we hadn't lost to Arizona, we'd be looked at maybe as San Francisco's equal or close, but we're not because we had the hiccup. We'll prove that game was a fluke on Sunday night. And Micah Parsons, they're not going to have an answer for him. He'll go out and make plays. We'll make sure McCaffrey doesn't find the end zone for the first time in 13 games. And Dan Quinn will be looked at as one of the best assistant coaches in the NFL after this game is over. That's the game within a game. It's Quinn's defense against Shanahan's offense, in which play caller gets the better of the other in this one. Yes, I like that you're doing that now. Think that people notice that?
You feel like you should remember so we can rotate. We've only been doing this podcast for over a year, but then they make these video clips, so I probably shouldn't have to point.
Eagles, Rams. I'll ask the same question as last week. Are you putting the Eagles on upset alert?
Yes. The Eagles, you were on it early with the offense, and I think that what that is that Hurts isn't running the ball, and all of the mobile quarterbacks are not running the ball. And maybe ironically, the best of the running quarterbacks is Lamar, who people said they were going to be passing way more, and they've actually schemed some pretty creative ways to keep the running game alive for him. But Fields,
the dude in Indy gets a pretty explosive runner too.
That's true.
Yeah.
But Fields and Hurts have kind of been, underperforming in terms of running the football. But the Eagles have been still quarter of the way into the season, a top 5 offense and a league average defense. And Cooper Kupp could play in this game with Puka Nacua. And what is Sean McVay going to do? And he's playing it close to the vest. What's that going to look like? And the Eagles secondary has been vulnerable. So yes, I think this is a classic spot. Game expected to be high scoring across the country for the Eagles. Both of those guys and whatever wrinkle McVay could put into it, and a vulnerable pass defense for Philly at this point. Yeah, I do think they're on upset alert.
So I like New England against Dallas last week, and they lost 38-3. And I'm bringing that up because what I didn't account for enough was New England's inability to block Dallas. And I just don't see how the Rams block Philly.
Yep.
After watching them against Cincinnati on Monday Night Football a couple of weeks ago, everything you said about their skill position players, their receivers against the Eagles secondary, even with the guys they brought back at corner from last year, I think is pretty much spot on. I just don't, with Stafford at this point in his career and with their offensive line, I just don't see them being able to run the ball, and I don't see them giving Stafford much time to make plays either. He's got to get the ball out super fast in this game. I don't see any downfield passing.
Nacua and Kupp are pretty good guys to have on your team if you need to get the ball out fast, though.
But I just could see him getting sacked here again 6 or 7 times, and the Eagles go there and win comfortably because of it. So I'm not going to put them on upset alert. I think they win.
I'm interested into why you framed this game this way.
Okay.
Jaguars, Bills. Do the Bills get a pass?
Yes.
If they lose the game?
Yes. That's what I'm saying. You are the ultimate Bills supporter on this podcast. You've gone against the narrative of something's off about that team. They've missed their window, etc. So here's a chance for you to possibly play Bills apologist. The Jaguars have been lying in wait in London the whole time. We know how they are with these games. They're super comfortable there because they do it all the time, even though they're like a 500 team in London. But
right. That's what I was going to say.
Hold on. But this is unconventional because it's back-to-back weeks, which has never happened before.
Right. They stayed over.
And Buffalo is coming off an emotional win. And if you look at historically in the NFL, just in general, teams that win by double digits rarely cover the next week. It's like something about blowing the other team out affects a team. It's just hard to do in this league to follow it up in back-to-back weeks. And, the Bills were acting like a team that was celebrating something against Miami. We knocked them off. And Jacksonville is pretty much underachieved this year. They've circled this game. So if the Bills lose, are we just going to write this off as, well, they had to go to London and they were coming off the Dolphins win, so it's not that big of a deal?
I think the answer to that is probably yes.
Yep.
Yeah, yes, but what do we do in the alternate universe where the Bills win? Is it, wow, that was so impressive?
Yes.
Or is it just, you think so?
In fact, I will give them more credit for winning this game than the Dolphins game.
That is very unconventional. I think that one of the things that'll be is like, wow, the Jaguars disappointing again. What's wrong with the Jaguars? They stayed over. They circled it. They did everything they possibly could. More than a quarter of the way into the season, Trevor Lawrence still hasn't been able to get it going. All of that stuff. Like, I don't know what the Bills need to do to get a little bit more credit. Like this year, it's like they got overrated early.
I'd give them a ton of credit if they went there and won.
Okay,
I would be ready to do that. I mean, it just seems like a trap situation, big time for them here, where they spent so much energy winning that game and blowing out Miami, and now they got to follow it up with a trip to London against a team that's like, yeah, maybe we found something against Atlanta and we're going to bottle it up and use it against the Bills on Sunday.
I just think it's so funny that everyone was like, there's something wrong with the Bills. There's something wrong with the Bills. There's something wrong with the Bills. There's something wrong with the Jaguars. They're the team that's underperforming. Yes. They're the team that does not look nearly as good as the hype and the picks, and they could be a 12-win team, a 13-win team. They could be the 1 seed. They should run away with their division. Like, they're the team that is falling short of the expectations in this matchup, and I think they could get blown out in this.
Okay, Chiefs and Vikings. Now, I don't know if Taylor Swift is going to be at this game. I haven't kept up with it like you probably have. Kelsey gave a very terse answer on his podcast about the Taylor Swift situation and all the attention it's getting. Do you think it actually is turning into a distraction?
No, I do not. He was asked on his podcast with his brother, and if people actually played the clip, he did not seem stressed or tense at all. The quote read a little bit worse than it was. He was like, I think it's fun when celebrities are shown at games. The NBA has figured it out perfectly. They sit courtside, you show a cutaway or two of Denzel and whomever, and then you go back to the game. It just feels like it's new to the NFL. They're doing it all the time. It's a little bit over the top. That's what he said. It was very innocuous. This guy hosted SNL. He wants to be an actor. He had a dating show. He does golf tournaments on TV, mic'd up while crushing Coors Lights. He is very comfortable in the spotlight. This is admittedly a different level. I mean, there's paparazzi in Kansas City outside of his house. Like that's I'm not saying that's not different and new for him, but he knows exactly what he got himself into with this. There's no part of me that thinks
fair
Travis
enough.
Kelce
So it's not a distraction to Kelsey, but there's 52 other guys there and an entire organization to think about too. You're saying Kelsey's built for this. Of course he is.
I'm just saying that those comments, people, I thought that was I thought that the national talking heads that use that as an opportunity to take a cheap shot at Kelsey for being a hypocrite didn't watch the clip.
Okay.
Like, you know what I mean? Like, I don't think that he himself in any way is bothered by it. In fact, I think he's eating it up. Like, I think he's thrilled by all of the attention that he's getting, because I think he looks at his Instagram account and sees that he's gaining like 100,000 followers a day. So I think he's thrilled personally. The team, we'll see. I think this is a great get right spot. I love the Chiefs in this spot. The Vikings defense is not good. Their offensive line has been good. Their offense is good. It should be an exciting game to see them against the Chiefs defense. Nick Bolton expected to be back though for the Chiefs, which matters a lot for them, which I think will neutralize some of what the Vikings have done on the ground this year. I think that the Vikings are going to need to get into a track meet. I think that the Chiefs are very upset at how they played and executed offensively last week. And there's a huge drop-off between the Jets defense and the Vikings defense, and we get to see the Chiefs in a dome. I think this is a game where the Chiefs offense puts up 30+.
Well, they better. I mean, because I think the Vikings are going to score in this game. I think this is their Super Bowl. I think they've circled this game too. And
you got a lot of teams circling a lot of games this week.
Well, we're at the top of the rundown. Once we get to like the middle and the bottom of things, I don't think the circling will be around at all. Okay,
all right, a lot of week 5 circling going on here.
But isn't it for the Vikings? I mean, you want to talk about narrative changers. If they win at home, who cares that they started 0-3? They'll have a win against Kansas City. You know, you talked about the NFC wildcard race a few minutes ago and how you think there's an opportunity for someone to back their way in. I mean, I just think it's a massive game for Minnesota. And look, do the Chiefs get the benefit of the doubt? Of course they do. You know, I said when they beat Jacksonville 17-9 and looked like crap, like that was actually a big win for Kansas City because it showed they could play like a C- D+ game and still beat a contender. But at some point, they're going to have to look good against a team that's not the Chicago Bears on both sides of the ball. And I'm still waiting for that.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, getting the half point here, the line at the bottom of the screen says 3.5. I like Minnesota because all they do is play in close games. I'll take the hook with them.
Well, they would not have covered plus 3.5 against the Chargers.
Right. But I mean, they played well enough to win that game is my point. Like,
yeah, they did.
You lose that bet, but you don't feel bad that the only way you feel bad about that bet is like, why do I put myself through the torture of watching Minnesota Vikings games?
That's
right.
And it is torture. All right, your game, Ravens-Steelers. The Ravens obviously going up against banged up Kenny Pickett. Do you ding the Ravens based on the quarterback competition they've played this year?
I think that they're the hardest team to really analyze because all of their defensive stats come with this huge caveat of Dorian Thompson or Darrell Thompson Robinson,
right?
Joe
Houston,
Burrow
Cincinnati,
on one leg,
Indy, and Cleveland.
Stroud's first game, Gardner Minshew, now Pickett, who hasn't been good and isn't probably 100%. I mean, like they've already lost one of these games that they should win. These games between these two teams are always first to like 13 or 17 and one possession games. You know, Lamar Jackson only has one win in his career against the Steelers. That's it in his entire career. He's got 4 touchdowns to 6 interceptions and 5 fumbles. Look, he got his money, so he's not playing for that. But just like Aaron Rodgers, part of the appeal to him as Packers quarterback is, I hate to bring this up, but one of the feathers in his cap is that he dominated the Bears for all those years. You're talking about since he came into the league in 2018, he's beat the Steelers 1 time. Got to come here and win this game if you're the Ravens. Have to.
Well, okay, so I think that's a great angle for the Ravens. So I'll just leave it at that. But your coach, I know you don't love him, but Tomlin said there were going to be changes. And Matt Canada's still the play caller, and nobody's been benched, and they just did a Wednesday practice in pads.
Yes. You got that story right.
Okay. So he's not going to get fired because they don't do that. I'd imagine his popularity is dipping. What's up with, like you said, 17-13, but I just saw Houston put 30 on the defense. Like, is the defense good? You told me it was going to be great.
Well,
you know what I mean? I'm a little confused what the Steelers hang their hat on right now.
Well, it should be defense. They have the personnel for it, but they're 29th in the league in total yards, and they've given up 30 points in 2 games. It should be defense. I mean, there's no doubt.
What makes you say 17-13? Just based on history between these two teams? Because there's nothing about the Steelers this year that suggests that's the game they're about to play.
Well, when they go against the San Francisco system, you're right. You're right about that. When they play either the 49ers or Texans, they can't stop that. But they won. They're 2-2 because their defense won 2 games for them. Their defense picked off Jimmy Garoppolo 3 times, and their defense scored 2 touchdowns against Cleveland. So you do have a Jekyll and Hyde thing with that. And, you know, I got to see Lamar Jackson play like an MVP against the Steelers on the road before I expect it to happen. Like, they're the type of team that the Steelers are going to end up winning 8 or 9 games this year because even though they don't have great talent and they're not well coached, they still will get up for games like this to avoid having a horrible year. And so history, you're right. History tells me that they'll find a way against all odds to, at the very least, play an ultra competitive game against the Ravens on Sunday. All right. Next up, Danny. Okay.
So
Panthers and Lions.
Yeah.
So I wrote in here.
Yeah,
you're going to like what I have to say on this one.
Okay.
I did something this week in your honor.
Oh, wow.
I made a very large bet on the Lions to win the Super Bowl. I'm in. I'm riding shotgun with you, dude.
Hell yeah.
I'm in. Yep.
What number? What do you got?
I got him at 17-1, which isn't as good as your number, right? What's yours?
No. 25.
Okay, so you got a better number than mine. But here's why I'm still okay with being a little bit late to the party. They're a double-digit point favorite against the last winless team. They're going to win on Sunday.
Yeah.
You've got San Francisco and Dallas. You also said Philadelphia is on upset alert. Easily in 1 week, they could go from 17-1 to 10-1 to win the Super Bowl, I think. Right? I mean, if the Cowboys look bad against the 49ers and the Eagles lose, they'll move up.
Well, they got, I mean, yes, they're going to, the Amon-Ra St. Brown thing for this game might not be great, but everything else came up great for them on the injury report too. Decker and Vaitai both are going to play, so they should have their best 5 on the offensive line, and it's already been one of the 5 best offensive lines in football. And Jamison Williams' suspension got reduced, so he's back. So even if Amon-Ra St. Brown has to miss a game, they have a first-round pick talent coming back at wide receiver who's super fresh in a game that they should absolutely. I mean, they might not need to throw the ball once.
Plus Laporta. Plus, I feel like Gibbs hasn't really even gotten going yet, and that's going to be something like Kenneth Walker last year in Seattle that I think only gets better as the season goes on.
Dude, that's what I've been saying. That Goff with a good offensive line is really, really good.
I'm in, dude.
And then you have Amon-Ra St. Brown, Williams, Laporta, Montgomery, and Gibbs as skill position dudes with a head coaching candidate offensive coordinator. It's a really, really, really good team. The defense isn't great, but they could finish with a top 3 offense in the NFL by the end of the year.
And I think they have right now, I think they have a defense that's good enough to win a Super Bowl. I wouldn't say it's great. I wouldn't say it's like top 5 or anything like that.
No, it's not.
Like, should Baltimore have better odds to win the Super Bowl than Detroit? We just talked about the Ravens. They're 14-1. Their offense, can you see that offense winning 4 games?
No, I mean,
I
could see the Ravens offense being significantly better than it is right now, though, after 6-8 more games with the new system, with the new play caller, like getting better as the year goes on. I do think that there's room for improvement for Baltimore on the offensive side of the ball. And like, listen, Detroit in San Francisco for an NFC Championship game, they're an underdog,
of course,
and a decent one. You know what I mean? They'd probably be
as long as it's not Philly in bad weather, though. I'll be comfortable with San Francisco in January. It'll be like a balmy 55 degrees. Goff can play in that weather. He's from there.
They could win a shootout. They could turn that game into a shootout and win. Dude, I'm glad you're on board. I've been talking to you about it since the offseason.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes I'm late on things. You know that. I mean, I'm stubborn.
I'm just saying, I tried to get you in early. Plus 145 to win the division was my biggest preseason bet. I loved them to win this division.
Texans, Falcons, how far are you willing to take the CJ Stroud hype?
All right. I mean, it's 4 games. I'm willing to say in a redraft, he would be the number 1 pick. So, like, can you beat, like, let's like start turning over our cards. I'll play that card first. Are you willing to go higher than that?
Yes, I am.
Okay. What are you willing to say?
Well, wait a minute. Would you say that him winning Offensive Rookie of the Year is higher than that, or is that lower right now?
It's about the same, probably.
Okay. Well, then, so I still need to up that then.
Are you willing to say that the trade with Arizona was correct? Or do you look at that as being more about Will Anderson?
That's a Will Anderson trade. Yeah, that's different.
Okay, I mean, because I think that it's in conjunction with quarterback and edge rusher, but that's fine. Okay.
I think that he will throw more than 25 touchdown passes this year. And he'll come close to like the Baker Mayfield, Russell Wilson, Justin Herbert, year 1 quarterback.
Herbert's the one he was what? He was 31, right? Is that the record? That's the record, right?
Yeah, and Mayfield was 27, I think.
Yeah. Okay, that's a good one. Are we willing to say that CJ Stroud will break Justin Herbert's passing touchdowns rookie record?
What do you think?
My gut tells me no. Because even though Collins is having a monster top 5 receiving year to start the year, Herbert came in and had Eckler and Keenan Allen, had Williams. Like that, the skill position dudes on that Chargers team were top 10 in the NFL. That's not what's going on in Houston. And I assume that, adjustments to the adjustments will be made.
But their offensive line is going to start getting healthier here. They're going to start getting guys off the IR, which will only help him.
Yeah.
And their division does stink. They're all 2-2 right now.
What's interesting to me about it is that some of the skepticism after like 2 weeks was that it was all garbage time stuff.
Yeah, I said that.
But then by 4 weeks, the film gurus, like the Twitter anonymous people and the Dan Orlovskis of the world were like, oh, damn, this is real. Like it felt like it swung from skepticism to belief in a game.
I think it's the system thing too, man. I mean, I think that offensive coordinator is going to be a head coach by the end of the year. I'm just
Slowick.
Yeah, I just think he's 36 years old. I think it's just trending in that direction. Somebody is going to hire him immediately if this keeps up.
Saints Patriots. Is Bill Belichick back next year for the Patriots? Let's get aggregated, baby. Let's go viral in Boston.
No, I think he's done. I think this is it. Yeah. I think it's it. Yep.
Okay. Fired, parted ways, retired.
Not retired.
He can't give up on Shula, right? He wants Shula.
I don't think that Bill will let it say mutually parted ways. I think he's too proud. I think it's going to say fired. I think they're going to fire him. Yeah.
How is that better for his pride?
Meaning, like, I don't think that he's going to want to lie and fib about, like, oh, we just agreed to disagree. I think he's going to dare crap, be like, oh, really? You'll fire me? Do it. And he'll do it. Yeah. Or can I just for a second, I don't mean to make a quick left turn and meander off from what was a very good game that you just put me through there. How about traded as an option?
Oh, God. Would you give up a first-round pick for how old is he? 70?
I wouldn't, but is there a team that would? Would the Bears?
71.
If the Panthers go 2-15 and they have the number 1 pick and the Bears have the 8th pick, would you trade the 8th pick for Bill Belichick?
No.
You're really going to get aggregated now, buddy.
No, he's 71 years old.
Guess what? I think Miss McCaskey would. I think she'd do it. She'd get the stability in there, break the record. She'd do it. Put Belichick with Caleb Williams, and let's go. Maybe Josh McDaniels gets fired by the Raiders, and you've got McDaniels and Belichick with Caleb Williams for 2 or 3 years or 4 years or 5 years, maybe even.
Or 6. Listen, if you told me that that Fields played so well that you could trade him for the 25th pick, and then you could have Caleb Williams, the 8th pick, and Bill Belichick, I'd consider it. But no, man, I want Slowick. I want Ben Johnson. I want Shane Waldron.
Do you think Belichick will be back there next year?
I think that the odds still would have to say yes.
Why? Based on
History.
what? History of what? All the reporting out of there is
I know.
Kraft is very antsy. He's fatigued with having to work with Bill and giving Bill total autonomy with things and not having, football operations people have a say in things like that. And
so you're going to fire the greatest coach of all time? With no succession plan and no quarterback of the future and no path out?
Yeah, Peyton Manning got cut. Why not?
Well, they had Andrew Luck.
Okay.
They had a succession plan.
Okay, so the alternative is just run it back with Bill Belichick and Mac Jones. If you keep Belichick and you get rid of Mac Jones, what kind of succession plan is that?
I mean, what do you think they look like if they have Kirk Cousins?
A team that has to grip it tight for 10 wins and then loses in the first round of the playoffs by about 14 points. I don't know, something like that.
Yeah, I think that, I mean, does Kraft have the stomach for a long rebuild without a top 5 pick and not without a future at quarterback and without an answer at coach? I'd imagine he's a little antsy. Like, what sounds better to him? 10 wins or complete obscurity?
Maybe he doesn't want to deal with the day-to-day of working with Bill Belichick anymore, and that trumps everything you just said.
It might. But you
you literally just said
you're saying there's 10 grand on the floor. You get to pick it up if you're right. Bill Belichick next year. Patriot or the field? You're taking the field.
Yeah. And you said there, think about what you said. You're like, I can't believe Kraft would do that. And then 2 minutes ago, you said, I'd take Bobby Slowick over Bill Belichick. You take a guy that worked at PFF a few years ago over the greatest coach of all time. And now you're getting on me for what I just said?
I'm offensively biased.
So am I. And so is the rest of the league right now, bro. That's why I think he's getting fired.
Okay. But I'm also a little bit of an ageist. Like, I don't want a 71-year-old coach starting over. But if he was that guy, it's like you fell in love and held on to Ben Roethlisberger until he was 71. You know, like that. I'm just saying that's part of it.
But how bad was that really? I mean, they never had a losing season with him as the quarterback. And yeah, like you knew at the very, very end that you were going to get drubbed in the playoffs if you made it. But like, it still wasn't rock bottom. It's not like it was, they didn't turn into the Jets or the Browns during those last few years with him. So, but I'm biased on him too.
We'll see if this ends up being rock bottom. Like we'll see how it ends. Do you think they're going to win this game? I have no interest in watching this game.
No, I think the Saints are going to go there and win.
This is one of the least watchable games of the week.
Giants Dolphins. How effed is the Daniel Jones situation?
It's really effed.
Why didn't they listen to us when we said repeatedly last year, just franchise tag him?
I know. We said it. Yeah, dude. I'm telling you, we should run these teams. Seriously. I'd be a great play caller. I would never run the ball on first down. We could run one of these teams. It can't be that
I would be perfect for, as Bill Simmons created, the czar of common sense position. I would just be in there like, guys, what the F are we doing with this? Makes no, just nonsensical behavior.
Yeah. I'd have a target minimum for my best players. And if my quarterback didn't hit it,
Randy Moss ratio.
Yeah, he'd be fined significant amounts of money. Like if Desmond Ridder came back to me at the end of the game and was like, I'm sorry, Drake London and Kyle Pitts just weren't where my eyes went. I'll work to get them the ball more next time. Sorry, that's $50,000.
I mean,
they're
saying things in New York like this could be, this could be Ben McAdoo all over again. One great year and then that's it.
Well, we said a lot of nice things about Dable though, so that would be uncomfortable. So I said the day we were talking about Caleb Williams, obviously, and you said at the start of the show, I was like, Fields could go on a heater, be very good. They win 7 games. If the Carolina picks the number 1 pick, they're taking him. And then I said, because every team that gets the number 1 pick that realistically could get it would take him. The only team that I could see not taking him that maybe could do it is Cincinnati. Like if Burrow tore his calf in the next game and they lost out, they would trade the rights to Caleb Williams for a king's ransom, right? But everybody else, and someone who listens and is a sports media executive in town, texted, he's a New Yorker, he was like, the Giants wouldn't. And I was like, you're out of your mind.
Yeah, you're right about that.
He was texting me about the contract. I'm like, they would just have a bad cap situation for 2 years.
Correct.
And then they would cut him after 2024, have a $22 million cap hit, which is not bad.
Yep.
And they'd play Caleb Williams, and Daniel Jones would just be the most expensive backup, or they would trade him for a 6th-round pick. Like, everybody would take him. So the Giants situation is really bad because they paid an average to below average football player. So they're in trouble. They're in big trouble.
Jets Broncos, do we get a Zach Wilson encore?
Yes. Yes. Dude, no, but here's the thing. Denver is abysmal. You know, they're the worst defense in the NFL by far.
Why is the total for this game so low then?
Because the Jets defense is really, really good. So
why are the Broncos a 2.5-point favorite then? I'll just keep asking questions.
That's a good question. That's a good question. We should bet the Jets. We should bet the Jets on the.
I don't feel good about it. I think Zach Wilson, just my read on it from afar, I just think he might be the type of dude. I saw him do the gritty after catching a touchdown pass against the Steelers. I could easily see him feeling himself after that game and going right back in the tank Sunday against Denver. I really think so, dude. I think he just, like you said, heater. I think he has obvious physical traits. I think he just rose to the occasion because he knew that literally, like, not only the entire football world, but the entire entertainment world was watching that game. And now it's a 425 game with Andrew Catalon calling it. I think he's going to go right back to being Zach Wilson, bro.
I don't think so. I think this is a Jets win. The Broncos defense is trash. And I think that they look at that and, like, they're not playing for a tank or a number 1 pick or anything like that. They'll put out a good performance. I also think that Denver makes everybody look good. I just saw them up close and personal last week. All right, you have to go first with this one because I resent the question.
Titans Colts. We love crushing the Titans. Should we be nicer to them?
You have to go first. Why should we be nicer to them?
Because they win a lot of games that they really, in our opinion, have no business winning. And when that happens, there should be a level of, like, I don't know, respect given to a team that does that on a pretty routine basis. But I still don't want to be nice to them, and I'm rooting like hell for the Colts to beat them, and I kind of think they will because of what Anthony Richardson did in the second half of that game. And now Jonathan Taylor's talking, and is he going to play on Sunday? Probably not, right? Like, they just started the clock on his return.
Yeah, we don't know yet, but I mean, my bias for this game is to say that the most interesting thing by far is Anthony Richardson. You know, like, I find the Titans to be boring, and they're well coached and they overachieve, and Derrick Henry's generational, but it's just such a low ceiling operation that I kind of resent their success.
I do think both teams, though, are really well coached. I think Steichen's got off to a good start as a coach in Indy. Go into Houston and winning. That looks even better now. What they did in Baltimore with Minshew, getting killed early in the game against the Rams, getting it all the way back to overtime. Like, if I'm a Colts fan right now, I feel pretty good about the state of the organization and the franchise after the first quarter of the season.
Well, and I mean, so they're 2-2, home against Tennessee, in Jacksonville, home against Cleveland, home against New Orleans, in Carolina, in New England.
You know, it's interesting that you bring that up because I think at the start of the year, even though people didn't think Jacksonville was the best team, there was a case to be made that Jacksonville might have been, in the eyes of many, the best bet to win a division. That division feels very wide open to me right now. They're all even at 2-2. I do think you could probably make a compelling case for all 4 teams right now, even 2 that are quarterbacked by rookies.
It's just and then I just looked after the bye. Dude, this schedule is shockingly easy. So I just gave you the run up to the bye.
Bet him to win the division, Danny.
What is it? What is it?
I'll pull it up right now. Do you want to guess what the order is? Best odds to worst odds to win the AFC South right now after 4 weeks.
Jacksonville.
Man, you're thinking hard.
Yeah. Jacksonville, Tennessee, Houston, Indy, Houston.
Yep, that order is right. Jacksonville plus 150, Tennessee plus 210, Indy plus 430, Houston plus 460. I don't think that those two teams at the bottom should be that far back.
Okay, so explain. Listen to this schedule for Indy, and they're going to get Jonathan Taylor back at some point. Tennessee at home, in Jacksonville, home against Cleveland, home against New Orleans, in Carolina, in New England, bye, home against Tampa, in Tennessee, in Cincy, home against Pittsburgh, in Atlanta, home against Vegas, home against Houston.
Danny, what are their odds to win the division if they beat the Titans at home and the Bills beat the Jags on Sunday? They're not plus 430 on Monday morning.
No, they're probably plus 230.
Right.
Plus 200. So you know what I mean? Yeah, that might be a bet, actually. Because Richardson looks really good.
And if something happens to him, it's not like the backup kills you either.
Right, as long as it's yeah. Huh. Dude, they don't have a good team. They don't have a top 10 team in the NFL.
You piqued my interest here, man. I think we might have to make that a show bet, the Colts to win the division. I really do, at plus 430.
I mean, are you reading this the same way as me? They don't play a top 10 team in the NFL the rest of the year?
Yes.
Huh.
Bengals, Cardinals. Last one. Does Joe Burrow snap out of his funk this week?
Is that defined as like 300 plus yards, multiple touchdowns, double-digit win?
Yeah.
No.
Oh, man.
I don't buy that he's 100% healthy. There's the T. Higgins situation. They're on the road. The Cardinals have been feisty. And this line, like if I would have told you 4 weeks ago before the season, and I don't know what the look-ahead line was like for this game, but what do you think it was? Cincy at Arizona before week 1. It would have been.
I know what it was.
You do?
Yeah. It was 8.5.
8.5. See, I was going to guess 7.5, and it was 8.5, and now it's 3.
Yep.
So I don't think that I need to see them look good, and there's nothing that is trending towards them looking good.
Totally agree. The one thing I'll say about the Bengals here is that when the Rams game felt like a playoff game, he didn't play great, but the defense stepped up and won them the game. I have a feeling the same thing will happen in this game. At some point, I think Josh Dobbs is going to remember that he's a journeyman third-string quarterback, and his run of like mistake-free football is going to end. I think he's going to throw multiple interceptions in this game. I think Cincinnati will win, but I don't know. So I'm going to answer the question too. I don't think he will because I don't think he'll have to. I think the rest of the team is going to lift him up in this game, and he'll just have to manage a game for them, which is what, at this point he needs that. They got to run the ball more, I think, in Cincinnati, even though they shouldn't. You don't want to do that if you're the Bengals because of what you paid Joe Burrow and the receivers you have. But the T. Higgins thing is also fair to bring up, and at this point, by any means necessary, if you're the Bengals. So, all right, bro.
We've got teams on bye. This is the first time where the slate can get a little dicey, but we got good games in each window this week, and we've got an early game. So hopefully we get good games because this is when you start to get only like a few games in the late afternoon window, and red zone can get a little dicey. So we need games to stay close. So we've got a good 14 hours of football on Sunday. Thanks to Mike for filling in for Spencer. We hope Spencer feels better. Tell a friend. Watch us on YouTube. Share the clips. Tell people about the pod. First and Pod. Peace.